I'm Tracy Sabol. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, gruesome discovery. Israel says it's found the bodies of more hostages taken by Hamas. We have analysis from Aaron David Miller. Demanding answers. Members of Congress expressed concern over 2 pro-lifers being held in jail. Prayers for the fallen. A report from Rome on a crucial battle that helped to change the Second World War. And saying halo to a saint-to-be. The miracle hunter Michael O'Neill tells us more about Blessed Carlo Acutis. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us. Our top story tonight, President Joe Biden spoke with Egypt's president today about securing the release of the hostages. Also today, Israel was told to halt its military offensive in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. That order coming from the International Court of Justice. But Israel is unlikely to comply with that order as it is intent on destroying Hamas. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen?
That's right, Tracy. The International Court of Justice in the Netherlands does not have a police force to enforce its orders, but the ruling does increase international pressure on Israel, which today rejected accusations that it is committing a genocide in Gaza and defended its military operations in Rafah.
Israeli military troops operating in Gaza, hunting down Hamas terrorists. Criticism of Israel's conduct in the war in Gaza has been growing, particularly since it turned its focus to Rafah. The decision by the International Court of Justice sent a clear message to Israel, ordering a halt to the Rafah offensive, access to Gaza for war crimes investigators, and an immediate increase of humanitarian aid to the region, parts of which are enduring famine. Judges on the top United Nations court stopped short of ordering a full ceasefire throughout the Palestinian territory. But the court warning today, civilians in Gaza are at immense risk.
Consequently, the court is of the view that Israel has not sufficiently addressed and dispelled the concerns raised by its military offensive in Rafah.
President Joe Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, who recently met with Israeli officials discussing Rafah, addressed reporters earlier this week.
I was briefed by Israeli officials and by Israeli professionals on refinements that Israel's made to its plans to achieve its military objectives while taking account of civilian harm.
Sullivan said the U.S. will be watching what transpires. As for how Israel's military operations will be judged,
there's no mathematical formula. What we're going to be looking at is whether there is a lot of death and destruction from this operation or if it is more precise and proportional. And we will see that unfold. And we will obviously remain closely engaged with the Israeli government as we go.
And in President Biden's call today with Egypt's president, the White House says the two leaders also consulted on new initiatives to secure the release of hostages, together with an immediate and sustained ceasefire in Gaza.
Also today, the Israeli army says the bodies of 3 hostages killed on October 7th were recovered overnight from Gaza. Just days ago, the bodies of 3 other hostages were found. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, for more, let's bring in Senior Fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, Aaron David Miller. He served the State Department as a historian, analyst, negotiator, and advisor to Republican and Democratic secretaries of state, where he helped to formulate U.S. policy on the Middle East and the Arab-Israel peace process. Aaron, great to be with you as always. A lot to break down here. But first, the UN's top court ordered Israel to halt its military offensive in Gaza. The court has no way of enforcing this. So what impact does the order even have?
I think it just increases, first of all, it's further evidence that the Israelis have lost the information war. Wars have strategic political objectives, but they're also fought in the dimension of ideas. And I think the Israelis and public diplomacy, the Israelis have lost this one. It may have been for a while a split screen in the wake of the October 7 terror surge, where Hamas, over a 24-hour period, willfully, statistically murdered Israeli men, women, and children. engaged in serial raping and sexual predation and took hostages. But that split screen over the last 8 months, I think, has disappeared. And the international community basically sees one screen. And that screen is depicting the exponential rise of Palestinian deaths, large majorities of women and children, civilians, and humanitarian catastrophe.
Yeah, and I know that you know this, that the IDF announced today that the bodies of 3 more hostages have been recovered in Gaza, and they believe the Hamas still has 100 people and 30 bodies. How much leverage do you think Hamas has, and how realistic is it to think the hostages will actually be released?
Well, 8 months into this war, I think it's quite clear that Yahya Sinwar was the architect of the October 7 attacks, and the other senior leaders ensconced in tunnels somewhere below Rafah and Yunus, maybe even tunnels in Sinai, are using tunnels, time, and hostages to negotiate and ultimately trade for something that Sinwar wants, which is a comprehensive ceasefire and an end to the war. He has no plans of becoming a martyr, and I think envisions Hamas as an influential force, either as an insurgency or as a significant actor in Palestinian national politics through intimidation or co-optation. He plans to survive this war. So in that sense, there's very little urgency on the part of Sinwar's part to get what he wants. And the Israelis are obviously reluctant to give it to him.
Before I let you go, I want to bring up one of the posts that you had on X. You said once Israeli ops in Rafah and a major Israel ground campaign ends next month, where are we? Hamas survives an insurgency with hostages. Israel continues to operate in and out of Gaza. No effective Palestinian governance. Sporadic delivery of humanitarian assistance. So, Aaron, where does this end? How does it end? And will it ever end?
You know, to end this and to create a more practical pathway, both for the people of Gaza and to ensure that Gaza first is not Gaza only, some political pathway leading, in my judgment, to the best hope to satisfy Palestinian national aspirations and to maintain Israeli security, Palestinian state, you're going to need leadership. And we really don't have it. You have an Israeli government headed by Benjamin Netanyahu on trial for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust, 3 years running now in the Jerusalem District Court, who's conflated his own political and legal travails with what he believes to be the best interests of his country. And on the other side, you've got an 89-year-old Mahmoud Abbas, now in the 20th year of a 4-year term, who has very little credibility in the West Bank, been accused of corruption, nepotism. You really do need new leaders.
Well, Aaron David Miller, always great to be with you. Thank you so much for your insights, as always.
Thanks for having me.
Well, a surprising new bill on Capitol Hill has some scratching their heads. That's because the House is ready to consider another bill to bar non-citizens from voting in all elections. But it's already against the law for non-citizens to vote in U.S. elections. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales helps us sort it out.
Good evening, Tracy. House Speaker Mike Johnson was candid with reporters when he introduced a new bill called the Safeguard American Voters Eligibility, or SAVE Act. He said, yes, laws are in place, but in the same breath, he claims that a lot of illegal migrants voted in previous federal elections.
Due to the wide open border that the Biden administration has refused to close, in fact, that they engineered to open, we now have so many non-citizens in the country that if only 1 out of 100 of those voted, they would cast hundreds of thousands of votes.
In 1996, federal law bans non-citizens from voting in federal elections. So why then is this bill needed?
It's true that no current mechanism to ensure only those registering or voting are actually citizens. There's no mechanism that exists to make sure that's correct. If a nefarious actor wants to intervene in our elections, all they have to do is check a box on a form and sign their name. That's it.
He adds states don't have the time to verify each answer. Plus, some cities like Washington, D.C. currently allow non-citizens to vote in local elections. The SAVE Act would require voters to show they are citizens by showing an approved government photo ID, showing an approved national mail voter registration form, and require states to remove non-citizens from voter rolls. Democrats contend Speaker Johnson has no proof of illegal migrants voting and say they are just trying to appease the far right.
Mr. Speaker, it is already illegal. So there is nothing to talk about. Y'all arrest people for way less all the time.
This is pushing the alarm button for something that is really not there. I don't know of any undocumented person that will go and try to vote and try to get themselves arrested and deported.
Studies by a broad spectrum of policy groups back this up, finding very few cases of non-citizens voting in recent elections. But Congressman Chip Roy, one of the chief crafters of the bill, defends it.
We should have documentary proof that we should have a system to guarantee that only citizens of the United States vote in federal elections.
Republicans also tell me without the bill, census numbers and congressional representation could be affected. The bill could be voted on early next month. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
A Congressional Pro-Life Caucus co-chair Chris Smith and a group of House lawmakers are demanding answers amid reports that 2 pro-life women were denied necessary medical care while in prison awaiting sentencing. The 74 and 59-year-old women were convicted of violating the FACE Act after they blocked access to a late-term abortion clinic in Washington, D.C.
You know, when you're in prison, especially when you're in prison on these bogus charges against people who are trying to save lives at abortion mills, to mistreat them through neglect of their health, that's what you see in gulags all over the world. You shouldn't see it in the U.S. Bureau of Prisons.
Congressman Smith says that he wants to speak with the director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, but has yet to receive a response. Congressman Smith's plea comes as the FACE Act draws increasing scrutiny. Michael Warsaw, chairman of the board and chief executive officer of EWTN, takes a closer look at the overturning of Roe v. Wade and how U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland vowed to protect abortion. Warsaw wrote in part, quote, "The FACE Act is fatally, irreparably flawed and ought to be repealed as Republicans in Congress are trying to do." To read more about it, check out the National Catholic Register at ncregister.com. Doctors in Arizona are now allowed to travel to California to perform abortions for their patients. This after California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a measure meant to circumvent Arizona's temporary near total ban on abortion. The law in California is set to remain in effect until November. On a different note, college athletes could soon receive payments following a multi-billion-dollar settlement. An agreement worth $2.8 billion was reached between the NCAA and the 5 most prominent athletic conferences. The move would change a century-old stance that college athletes are amateurs and cannot be paid. The deal must be approved by a federal judge. And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including mental health and the military. We take a look at some of the challenges faced by our brave servicemen and women. And an event in Rome gathers several veterans who were at a crucial World War II battle 80 years ago. Welcome back. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, a time to address the challenges faced by millions of people who struggle with issues such as anxiety or depression. Among the many people who face this battle are our servicemen and women. According to the National Institutes of Health, between 14 and 16% of U.S. military members who served in Iraq and Afghanistan have been impacted by post-traumatic stress disorder or depression. Those conditions are far from the only ones affecting our brave men and women. And joining us now to talk about this and more is Eddie Garcia, a veteran who served 22 years in the U.S. Army with deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. Eddie now works extensively with Gold Star families and protecting the welfare of veterans, and he is also running for U.S. Senate for the state of Virginia. Eddie, thank you for being with us, and thank you so much for your service. Let's talk a little bit more about the mental health challenges that many of our veterans face and why it can be difficult for them to get help.
Well, thank you for having me, Tracy. This is an important issue. 22 veterans sadly commit suicide every single day. Veteran health care is diminished over the last couple of years, and it's tragic to see combat veterans, battle buddies of myself, that are sleeping under freeways, that are homeless because they don't have access to the care that they need. And so it's a big issue transitioning from active duty into civilian life. It's a lifestyle change for many who have spent decades, in some cases, in service, and to make their way out into the civilian world with all this trauma that they're leaving the service with. So it's a tragedy. It's unacceptable, but it is fixable with leaders who are focused on this issue.
Yeah, and Eddie, how can family and friends, how can we best support our veterans, especially those who are struggling with these issues?
Well, the first thing that everybody has to come together and recognize when somebody's in trouble, if somebody's having feelings of despair and anxiety, depression, and it takes a community, just like any other family member in need. And so there are numerous times where I've received personally a phone call at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning from my battle buddies that have exited the military, that are suffering through a mental health crisis, and a collection of us come together and we get on the phone and we make sure that that we talk through some of the issues that one of our friends is having, and we keep an eye on them. We shepherd them through, and then we make sure that we follow up and they get the care that they need at a local mental health clinic or facility.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, you work a lot with Gold Star families, and as we approach Memorial Day weekend, our thoughts and prayers are certainly with all of them. That said, what have you been doing to help and assist them, and what are some of the biggest needs there?
Well, back in 2019, I helped write a bill that passed through the House of Representatives. It's the Congressional Gold Star Fellowship Act. And what that does is it allows Gold Star families the opportunity to work for a member of Congress, a paid fellowship by the House of Representatives. Because if we're going to have leaders in D.C. that are going to send our troops off to war, the voice that needs to be heard, we felt, is the families of those who have lost loved ones in the line of duty. And so I helped pass that bill back in 2019. I believe the Senate has passed a companion bill recently, and so that's a voice that's desperately needed on Capitol Hill, and I'm grateful and honored to be able to help pass that.
Annie, we have about 30 seconds left or so, but quickly, I'd love to get your reflections on Memorial Day and what you hope people truly take away from the day.
Well, Memorial Day is about remembrance, and we are the land of the free simply because we are the home of the brave. And for those who have sacrificed their lives on behalf of a grateful nation, the least that our country can do is come together for a day of remembrance in those individuals who gave the ultimate sacrifice, and their families who are continuing to sacrifice without their loved ones around. It's personal to me. I've lost some dear friends overseas after 22 years of service and 6 combat deployments and 22 years of the global war on terror. It impacts a lot of families, a lot of veterans, and today or this weekend is the perfect time to reflect on that sacrifice.
Absolutely. Eddie, thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you for having me, Tracy, and God bless you too.
Well, 80 years after the Allied victory at Monte Cassino during World War II, the last living veterans and descendants of soldiers gathered at the Italian town to commemorate the victory and pray for the fallen soldiers. EWTN Vatican journalist Magdalena Wolinska-Reedy has more.
It was one of the longest and bloodiest battles of World War II, the Battle of Monte Cassino. From January to May 1944, Allied troops launched 4 military offensives against German forces in Italy. The aim was to break through the Gustav Line, a series of German and Italian fortifications. It stretched across the Italian peninsula, blocking the way to Rome. One of the most strategic positions on the line was the town of Cassino and its historic hilltop abbey, the Monastery of Monte Cassino.
So the Poles, smaller than all the armies here when we think about the UK and the American armies, but they play a critical role in breaking the Gustav.
After 3 unsuccessful attempts to free the Italian town from the enemy, the Polish Second Corps, led by General Władysław Anders, launched one of the final assaults on the German defensive position, freeing the town and Benedictine Abbey from German occupation. Recently, thousands of people gathered in Monte Cassino to commemorate the victory on May 18, 1944. The last living veterans, along with descendants of soldiers, including the daughter of General Władysław Anders, all gathered to pray at the battleside and honor those who had died fighting for the freedom of Europe. Among them, Captain Władysław Dąbrowski.
I'm so happy I can still be here. My colleagues were here in Monte Cassino last year, and then it was a real plague. A dozen of them died. I have a picture from last year in Ancona with my 4 colleagues from Canada, USA, and the UK. Those 4 are all dead now.
Captain Krzysztof Flizak of the US Army also fought in the Battle of Monte Cassino, the youngest soldier of the Polish Second Corps. He joined the army at the age of 12. Decades later, he has returned to Italy for the battle's 80th anniversary and now stands on the cemetery where more than 1,000 fallen soldiers rest.
I had several good friends that were in the battle, in the battle, and they are buried there. So, especially my very dear friend, close friend, older colleague of mine, Edziu Synowiec, is buried there. And yesterday I gave my salute and honored him and his memory, along with the memory of my commanding general, General Władysław Anders.
On that fateful day in 1944, the Polish and British flags were raised in victory over the ruins of the Monte Cassino Abbey. In Monte Cassino, Magdalena Wolinska-Riedi, EWTN News Nightly.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, the path to sainthood. We are joined by the miracle hunter Michael O'Neill to discuss the news that Carlo Acutis is set to be canonized. Is pouring in after the Vatican says that Blessed Carlo Acutis is set to be canonized. Bishop Robert Barron told our Sunday visitor, quote, Blessed Carlo Acutis is an inspiration and intercessor for all young people, but especially for those who are drifting away or alienated from the church or who are skeptical about religion. And for more, we turn to Michael O'Neill, host of The Miracle Hunter, Saturdays at 7 p.m. on EWTN Radio, and explore with The Miracle Hunter on EWTN television. Michael, great to have you back on. So your thoughts on the news that Blessed Carlo is set to be canonized. What was your initial reaction, and what do you think this could mean, especially for young people?
Well, I have to say that personally, I was so extraordinarily excited about this because I consider Carlo Acutis to be my patron saint, actually, of miraclehunter.com, my website, and my study of Eucharistic miracles and Marian apparitions. So, and I study for They Might Be Saints. I'm always looking at sainthood causes. So this was something that popped up on my radar, and I was so excited. And for young people around the world, young Catholics especially, I think this can be a boost. And I know the Vatican is probably fast-forwarding this cause because his life is so exciting, and he can be such a great inspiration and role model for young people.
Definitely. And we heard a little bit about the miracle that was just approved, but can you quickly tell us more about it?
So in the year 2022, so very recently, there was this 21-year-old woman from Costa Rica. Her name was Valeria Valverde, and she was studying in Florence, and she had a severe bicycle injury in which she had a serious brain injury, and she had to have her skull drilled in order to release the pressure, and they actually thought that she might die at any moment. And her mother went to the tomb of Carlo Acutis in Assisi and left a note there and prayed for his intercession. And at that moment, it is said that the girl began to recover, and so much so that she began to breathe on her own, and she began to feel her upper limbs. And so she, in just 10 days in the intensive care unit, was able to come out of the hospital, and less than a week of physical therapy, she was back to normal. And shortly thereafter, she returned with her mother to that tomb of Carlo Acutis to express her gratitude for this incredible miracle. So this happened in 2002. So this happened not too long ago. Usually the church waits for it to be more of a lasting miracle, but you can tell perhaps that this is an attempt to get his canonization lined up for the Jubilee year of 2025.
Yeah, and can you remind us, Michael, what is involved in proving or even disproving miracles in saints' causes?
So they still rely on this criteria that was established by Prospero Lambertini. He was an Italian cardinal born in the 1600s, and he wrote the rule book on canonization miracles. And believe it or not, that's still what they use in the world today in the church and at Lourdes. So the miracle must be an instantaneous cure of a disease not able to go on its own. It must be instantaneous, complete, and lasting, and there can be no medical treatment that relates to the cure. In the case of sainthood causes, of course, you can only pray to a singular saint. So the mother of Valeria prayed to Carlo Acutis specifically for that intercession. So singular intercession was established, and here we have it, the miracle that's been approved by Rome.
Yeah, and Blessed Carlo Acutis, as we know, he was only 15 years old when he passed away from leukemia. How does that compare to the age of other saints?
Well, it turns out that the average age of saints is quite young. I've done a study on this, and the average age is in the 30s. And so we see a lot of young saints, actually, when you factor in all the martyrs and whatnot throughout history. But I think that he, in a very special way, draws the attention of young people, especially with his attention to computers and computer programming, and his interest in miracles. And I find that very, very interesting myself. So I think that he's a very attractive saint for a lot of people, but primarily because he's so young. I think he draws the attention of people from around the world.
Most certainly. And before I let you go, Michael, give us a preview of what you have coming up on the Miracle Hunter in the coming weeks.
Well, on the radio show, The Miracle Hunter, which airs every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, next week I'll be interviewing the mother of Carlo Acutis, Antonia. She'll be joining me for that interview, and what a great thing to talk to, somebody whose own son is being named a saint. It's so rare in the history of the church. It'll be so exciting to hear about that incredible blessing on her family.
Well, we can't wait. Thank you so much, Michael, for coming on again. Always appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you.
And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sabol. Good night, and God bless.